Hello and welcome to Aqua Lifestyle. I'm Glenn, and today we're going to cover the chart plotter features and functions of the Simrad Go series. We're going to cover how to do waypoints, routes, and understand all the menu functions. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to cover the chart portion of the Simrad Go series. You have your icon here for the chart on your main menu or on your main screen, home screen. But before we do that, we're going to go in and do a first time initial setup. So you're going to press this little cog button up in the upper left hand corner here, and this will bring up your initial settings for your different features in the unit. The first one is going to be the chart. Of course, that's what we're doing today. So you have some different options here, and again, this is for your initial setup. It's all dependent on the software that you have preloaded. You can get the cartography with either Insight, CMAP, or Navionics cartography. We'll get into that in a minute, and all of these choices depend on what kind of software you have, and you can turn it on or off merely by checking or unchecking the boxes. So you've got grid lines, you can display your waypoints, you can display your routes, you can display your tracks on the charts. Some of these other options, the synchronizing the 2D and 3D chart, that's going to depend on what kind of software you have preloaded. Same with sonar chart, live tide correction. Range rings and extension lines, again, you can put those on pretty much any cartography you got preloaded in there. So those are your basic initial settings here. You can turn those on or off. You can come back to them if you decide you want to turn them on or off. Just want to let you know that these are available and where they're available. So let's X out of that. We're going to go back to our home screen here, and here is our chart. So we're going to select that, and I'm just briefly going to go over some of the menu options, and then I'm going to show you in detail what each of them does. Okay, so clicking on the menu button in the upper right hand corner, if we restore the cursor or clear cursor, that takes us to and from the boat or from where our cursor was last. So right now we've got our boat in the center here. If I zoom out, we've got the basic cartography that the machine came preloaded with, and this is the Insight photography, so it's real basic. It does have some detail, some information, but with this software, this particular machine came with Navionics Plus cartography. So I've got a small chart chip in here, and it's Navionics Plus cartography. So we're going to want to load that in and see the difference between this and the basic Insight cartography that was preloaded on this machine. Before I load that chart in, though, let's go through some of the menu functions and see what some of these options are. First one is new waypoint. That's if you want to create a waypoint. You can create it at the vessel. If we had moved the cursor around, it would be at the cursor. We're going to talk about saving waypoints and routes just a little bit later on. And on this, if you want to skip ahead, just look at the timestamps down below. You can skip to what you're looking for specifically just by looking at those timestamps and moving along to that particular point in the video. Anyway, let's carry on here. Our next option is go to. That gives you an option to go to a coordinate. So we can click that and we can enter a coordinate. So if we have something off the paper chart or maybe some numbers a friend gave you, something like that, you can enter them in that way. We've got measuring, so you can measure to a particular point. I can move my cursor. There's the boat. I want to move it and measure to this waypoint that I've saved here. It gives me the distance right there. It's 2.63 miles at a heading of 189 degrees. So that's measuring. That's what that does. We'll finish that, clear that out. Info. Info would be information at a specific point. I've got my crosshairs on there, so if I click on that, it will give me that information. I can hit that and get further information from it. That's a waypoint that we've saved, and that's the details for that. Overlay. You can turn on, again, depending on the software that you have and the equipment that you have. If you have Cirrus Weather, you can overlay that. If you've downloaded GRIB weather information, you can overlay that. structure, if you have that capability. If you're running Navionics cartography, you can overlay your structure soundings from the sounder portion and overlay it onto the chart. Same with Sonar Chart Live, you can do that. SCL history, you can overlay that with that capability. And radar, if you have radar, you can overlay. So those are all your overlays that are possible on the chart. If we click more options, we have orientation. Now you can have orientation north up, where north is pointing at the top of the screen all the time. You can have heading up. So if we're heading in a particular direction, we're not right now, we're sitting still, but that heading would be at the top of the screen. And then course up, that would be whatever course we're supposed to steer would be at the top of the screen that way. So you've got some different options there. We'll keep it at north up. We'll back out here. Look ahead, what you can do when you do look ahead, if you're actually traveling to a particular point, it will drop the boat back to give you to 1/3, basically a third of the screen, so you'll see a little bit more in front of you. Again, we're not moving, so it's not doing that. 3D, we can turn 3D on, and you see the difference here between 3D and your regular chart. Kind of brings you up a little bit above, gives you more of a perspective view. Now you can zoom in and out with that, and it does pop up when you do that a couple of different options here. This one, you can actually rotate around and see a different perspective, rotating around, seeing what's around you just by moving your finger on the screen. If you click on this one, you can actually shift around and move it in this manner here. So those are your options in 3D. Nice feature. Turn that off for now. Next is chart options. Now this will give us information, different things we can set within the chart. If the cartography has photo imagery, like some of the layered versions of CMAP cartography or the Navionics Platinum Plus, you'd have photography, satellite imagery, and photo overlays. You can turn that on and off if you had that on there. And if that was available, this wouldn't be grayed out. You'd be able to change the transparency of that, so you can fade it in and out as you like. Shading, you can turn that on and off, and that's going to give you depth shading capability. Fishing range, again, you can change that, and it's going to let you know if you don't have the right software in there, it's not going to give you that capability. And a warning will pop up with that. Shallow water, you can change your depth. Right now it's at 0 feet. You can change it if you want it at 3 feet, so it won't show you anything under that depth. And your safety depth, 60 feet. You can coordinate and set up the chart to your safety depth. Community edits, if you have software that has that capability, you can turn that off and on, and that will display community edits. If you have that in your software in the cartography that you got loaded in the machine, you can turn that on and off, and those will display on the unit. Sonar chart, if we had the capability, if we had Navionics loaded in here and our sonar was running, we would be able to, that wouldn't be grayed out, we'd be able to check that, and that would display. SC density, you can change your density if you had that capability, again just by hitting it, and you can go from very high, high, medium, low. Colored seabed, you can change the coloration by checking that. Dynamic icons, you can have dynamic icons turned on and off. Rock filters, rock filter level on and off. And all of these guys, we could get into high detail, and this would be a very, very long video. So definitely refer to your owner's manual on these and get explanations, and understand that a lot of these features are going to depend on what software you have loaded in the machine. So I can demo some, I can't demo others depending on the software, but just refer to your owner's manual for those guys. This is, to really truly customize your unit. Initially, I wouldn't worry about these too much. Just learn to use the machine, learn to use the basics, learn how to explore on the chart, and then you can customize and start getting into this and customizing the chart to show the information that you want. Again, depending on what software you have, you may discover that the software you have you don't particularly like. You want to go to a different kind of software, different kind of cartography, and all these settings are going to be different depending on the software, the cartography that you load in there. All right, so we got presentation type, you've got US and international. That just changes the look and the coloration of your cartography a little bit. and it's just slight minor details, differences in the details of your cartography. Annotation, we've got full, so if there are any kind of annotations on the chart, it's going to display them all. You can change that from full to main, so just the most important ones will pop up. Chart details, you can have user or all. If we click all, that's going to give you your maximum information on the screen. And easy view, this is a fantastic feature. You check that, it's going to make all your information, your numbers bigger. You'll see your numerations, names, and everything. The text on it is just much easier. If I click on and off here, you see the difference. Easy view on, easy view off. Big difference. Much easier to read for eyes are starting to fail. It's nice to have that feature, just much easier to see. All right, so those are your chart options. If we go back here, we're going to hit back. The last option in the menu here is chart source, and this is where you're going to select what kind of cartography you want to display on your machine. If I switch it to that cartography, you see how that changed? This is the preloaded stuff in here. It was set to Navionics, and we don't have our Navionics card loaded in there yet, so that was just the basic stuff in the machine. Once you add your card, you're going to get a lot more detail. But you can see the difference here. This is going to be a whole different look to it. And this is what's preloaded in the machine prior to having your data card loaded in. Okay, and go more options, chart source. So this is CMAP US Coastal. So this is their basic coastal cartography with a decent amount of detailing in there. But you're going to see when I load the Navionics Plus cartography in there, there's going to be a whole lot more information as far as spot soundings, channel markers, depth contour lines. So since that was the last option in the menu here, let's go ahead and exit out of the menu. Now at any point if you want to exit, you just tap the screen and the menu goes away. So let's load in our Navionics Plus cartography, and then we will get into some of the other charting features. We'll talk about creating waypoints and routes. Okay, so we are going to take it out of the package here. Now, one thing you need to remember on this is these units, some of these units take SD cards, some of them take micro SD cards. If we take our unit here, the Go series, the chart access is right in the back of the unit here. So this is where your micro SD would go. You've got two slots here. You can put it in either one. Now, it's important to remember that your micro SD is within the adapter here. So remember to pull it out. You see, I did that. It's just a small groove at the bottom here. You can slide it out, and we will plug it in. You're going to do it with the tabs, metal tabs going in first, and they're going to be facing down. And we're just going to put it in the top slot again. Doesn't really matter which slot you put it in. You're going to push it in until it clicks into place, just like that. And then you're going to make sure you want to put your rubber seal nice and tight back on there. You don't want water getting in there, so make sure that's nice and tight. And the chart information is going to load in, and you'll get this level of detail if you have the Navionics Plus. The other option on cartography with this is CMAP, and they have different CMAP cartography that's available with these units, where you can buy them separately and load them in. So when you load those initially, one thing you're going to want to do, and we'll do this real quick, is it should identify the card and ask if you want to load that information in. If for some reason it doesn't, or you're not seeing the information you want on the chart, you're going to hit your menu button here. You're going to go to more options, and down at the very bottom here you have chart source. You're going to want to make sure that it's not switched to CMAP if you have Navionics in there, or Navionics if you have CMAP. You'll see if I switch to CMAP Coastal, the cartography is going to change here, and it's going to default to the preloaded software that's in the machine, which you can see has some information but nowhere near as detailed as the Navionics Plus card. So again, we'll go back, more options, chart source, we're going to switch it back to Navionics in this case because that's the software we have loaded in the machine. Now keep in mind, if you take the card out, that data will go away. It's not loading it into the memory. The preloaded chart that it comes with is that CMAP in this case. It doesn't load this in. So you take the card out, your data is going to go away. You want to keep the card in. You've got 2 slots on this machine, which is nice. If you have the cartography like this, it's prepackaged in the box. You're going to want to put that card in and leave it in while you're using it. If you don't want to store it with a card, you can take it out, but you want to keep that in a safe place. It's easy to lose. All right, so let's see what our options are with charts on this particular unit. So the Find feature, click on that. You have all different options of what you can find on the chart. Waypoints, routes, tracks, fuel, chart items, coordinates, vessels. Let's do chart items, for example. You can click on that and it'll pull up things from closest to further out, in points of interest. Palm Island, private, marinas and moorings, obstruction, tide stations. We can scroll down. Got all kinds of obstructions. You can pull up all kinds of things that are close by to you. So let's say we're at this point, whatever point it is on the chart, and we want to find the closest marina. Little Palm Island is private. We know that maybe that one won't work for us. Let's try Lukey Reef Resort. I click on that and it gives me a phone number, approach depth 1 foot, dockside depth 4 feet, and I can pull up any information. If it has information on it, I can hit that and it will give me that information. So it's got a boat ramp, restaurants, it's got a pool. Sounds like a good marina. We can give them a call, see if we can stay the night. Let's talk about saving waypoints on the Simrad Go series. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. First of all, you can, on the screen, you can go to your menu, hit New Waypoint, and it'll put the waypoint at the vessel, at wherever your vessel is, but you can go in and edit it if you want. You can just hit whichever portion you want to edit. You've got your full keyboard here. You can call it fish hole. Hit enter. Comes up as fish hole. If you want to enter coordinates either off a chart or list or whatever, you can do that now. We're going to change this to 24. Let's put it out somewhere away from the boat here. So we'll do 35, 86, 81, same. Over here you can just move it over, change whatever it is you want to change. When you're done, you hit OK. You can change your icon. You can, this is a fishing spot, so if you want to put the fish on there, you can even change the color of the fish if you want. Let's make it a little darker there, easier to see. We hit save, and I put my fish hole right in the middle of one of the islands in the Keys there, so good move. So that's one waypoint. If we want to clear cursor, go back to the boat. If, let's say, I want to save this rock pile here, I can move in, I can zoom in, get a little closer. That looks like an interesting spot there, 57 feet coming out of all this deeper water. So let's mark that spot there. If I want to mark that one, then I go to New Waypoint, and now you see it says Waypoint at Cursor. Again with a number, and let's change it and make it an X, but let's make it a red X. We'll save that, and there is that waypoint. If I clear the cursor, go back to the boat, if I scroll over here and I zoom in, you can see it right on the rock there. And the way we have it set up for the menu from before, you can see it's an X with the name or the number, designated number. There is another way to do waypoints. You can go to your main menu, and right on the side here you have waypoints. This is going to bring up a list of all your waypoints. If you want to create a new one, you can just tap it down below here and you can edit the information that you want in there. Nice and easy to do. So on this one, we're going to create a new one. So we're going to create another one here. Let's call it home. So we'll do HOME, enter. We're going to make the coordinates, let's see, let's do 26, 817, and we'll keep the other one the same just so we can find it on the chart here. We hit OK. It's going to be our home anchorage, so let me make it the anchor. And not a lot of options here color-wise, so we'll just leave it the way it is. We'll hit save, and there's home in our waypoint list. We also have routes, if we have a route created, and tracks. We'll go back to waypoints. That's your other way to create a waypoint. Let's see if we can find it here. If I want to go to that particular one, let's say, I can hit home. There's two ways I can do it. I can show it or I can go to it. If I want to navigate to it, I'll hit go to. If I just want to see where it is on the chart, I'll hit show. And apparently our home is right near the drop-off in the Straits of Florida, right in the middle of the Gulf Stream there. So now I've got my cursor on there. If I want to go to it at this point, yes, I decide I do want to go to that. I can hit go to, and I have two options, go to cursor, or I can enter a coordinate if I want to go to a particular waypoint. I want to go to cursor, and there we go. It's giving us an arrow, and there's our final point. I can zoom in here, and we're going to follow along that road that's drawn on the chart here, trying to keep as close to that red line as we can. So you can see we're ignoring that because we're in a simulation mode, and we're heading away from our course to steer. And it is indicating that right on our data bar here. You can see we're getting away from that roadway. It's warning us that we're getting further and further away. Okay. If you want to stop the navigation at any point, you hit navigation, you have cancel, restart, or back. We want to cancel it, and there you go. It's gone away. So those are different ways you can save a particular waypoint on your chart. Now what about routes? Routes are easy to save too. Let's do that. Okay, so let's talk about routes. There's a couple of different ways to do them with these machines. First way is on the chart itself, which is probably the most common way to do it. What you're going to do is you hit your menu button in the upper right hand corner again. You click new, and you click new route. Now you'll see some windows will come up here. You've got information, route number 1, your leg, the waypoint information, and edit route. So we're going to pick our first point. Let's say it's going to be right here. You see I tapped the screen, the crosshairs, and then I got a little green circle around, so that's going to be my first point. Then I do the same again, tap the next point in the route, and you can see I've got a little circle with a plus and a green line going from one point to the next. Let's just make a route going around this reef here. So there's our next leg. There's our next leg. Here's our next leg. There's our next leg. And back almost to our starting point. You can see our route here. Now if I want to save that route, I just hit save. It's route number 1. I can change the name if I want to at that point. We're going to call it route number 1, and there it is. Okay. So now if I want to steer along that route, I am going to hit navigate. This is 7 here. Start route 1. I want to do it forward. So it's going to steer me. See how it's steering me to that point, and those green lines turn red, and it's going to steer me along that route. Very, very simple to do. If I zoom in, you can see a little more detail here. We've got our line that we need to steer along, and we have what our cross-check area or our margin of error here with that little gray area. So you want to stay as close to that red line as you can. We're heading right to it, and that's our route. So that's the first way to save a route. Now if we want to pull this one up, or we want to stop this navigation first so we can pull it up a different way, let's go to the menu, We'll go to navigation. We can go back, we can skip, we can restart, or we can cancel. We're going to cancel this. So away it goes. If I zoom out, you can see my route is still showing on the chart. Now another way to pull up the route is to go to Waypoints list here. If I go to routes, here's route number 1. I can tap on that and it's going to give me each of the legs along that route. Route point 1 through route point 7. And distance and bearing. So very useful information there. You can insert a point if you want to, or you can remove a point if you want to. We're going to leave that, and you can have the route display on the chart if you want, or not by checking or unchecking that display box. Now, another way to create a route is from this menu. You click New Route. You can name it at that point. You can insert legs along the way. Let's make a route from the waypoints that we've got in our waypoint list, or we can enter a new waypoint. If we're working a route off a list, let's say, you can do it that way and save it. Click on it for the next one. We want to go to Insert. Let's use some that we've got here already. Insert waypoint 2, insert waypoint 3. So that's our next route. We're going to hit Save, and there's our route number 2. If I want to show it, I will click on it, hit Show, and there's my other route here. If I zoom out here, you can see they're kind of together here. They're close together, but that's another way to create a route. You can do the same thing. If we go to our menu here on the routes, we'll go to route number 2. If we want to start it, again, it's going to ask us, do we want to go forward, reverse, or cancel? We want to start forward, and there it is. It's telling us our first point is in that direction there. I'll show you and it'll steer you to it. So that's 2 ways to create routes within the system. Okay, another screen I want to mention in charting here is this one here, Nav. If you tap this icon, it's going to give you a screen with your navigation chart in a 3D mode where you're up above the water just like you are in the other one in 3D mode. But this one, if you are steering to a particular waypoint, it makes it very easy to steer to that waypoint, gives you good visual reference and good perception of where you are and what's around you. You have some more information on the screen here too. You've got your course to steer, mileage, route number that you're on, your depth, speed over ground, mileage again over here. You got course over ground, number of hours that you traveled, and of course your data bar that you can customize on any of the screens. So let's do this. Let's go in, we'll go to our chart. I am going to navigate to a particular waypoint. Let that draw in. Let's go back here. Navigation, we want to cancel the navigation we're on right now. We want to go to, let's go to a cursor here. We'll mark a cursor. We'll go to cursor. Okay, so it's going to steer us. You see we've got that in here. If we zoom in, you can see we're right here and it's going to steer us to that. So easy enough to steer along that line if you zoom in here. It's not difficult. You can see we're moving away from it. But if we go to, let's go back, if we go to our nav screen now and pull up that same information, it'll load in and you're going to see there's our roadway here. So there's our boat, there's our route. So it's taking us to our starting point and then it'll steer us along our route. So if I zoom in here, come in a little closer, there you go. It gives you a very good, easy visual representation of where you are, what's going on, and where you need to go. Very handy screen to use other than the standard chart plotter screen. So keep that in mind if you're steering to a particular waypoint or steering along a route. This is a good option for you. So there you go. That's a Simrad Go chart plotter features and functions and how to create waypoints and routes. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll know when the next video in this Go series is available. Thanks for watching and we'll see you soon.